I'm Heather Eichmann. I'm the one on the right. We have Brett Wright, who is our Customer Success Manager. He will be walking us through the demo today. As I just give a quick overview of A360, and just think, if you will, put yourself in the position of Autodesk, I guess, for a second. And we have typically served the needs of designers and engineers specifically. But if you think about it, there are tons of people that are involved in your projects. There's manufacturing, there's customers, there's vendors, suppliers, maintenance, sales, whomever. You guys are working with lots of people. And all those people use different tools and have different ways of communicating. So you've got your design tools, you've got analytics, different documentation, different methods of communicating, and then different ways of sharing that information. So you're emailing your stuff, you're talking to people in person, you're marking up drawings, and you're probably not faxing them, but you're putting them up on an FTP, you're taking screenshots of things, you're doing all kinds of jerry-rigged processes to make sure that you're getting your information and your collaboration done effectively in your team. And it's not the most efficient thing. So that is what A360 is all about. It is designed for design and engineering type projects, but it brings together all of the people, activities, data, and communications into one single workspace, so everyone can access, see, and work together and keep everything nice and neat. And it's available when and where you need it, so it works on most mobile devices. There's iOS and Android. And we'll walk through this interface in a little bit, but the dashboard is very intuitive, very easy to use, very easy for your team members to use without having any design expertise themselves. So it's meant for the project people, anyone involved in the project, not just the designers and engineers. And just some of the key features, key functionality. It enables the design and engineering project teams to work efficiently together in one place. I kind of already said that. And it's all about sharing information and data and viewing files. So you think about the file types that you're working with and how troublesome it can be for some of the people on your team if they don't have the design software to be able to see things and work with things and respond to things that you're working on. And A360 really simplifies that process and also makes it extremely easy to search for information and data within your design files, so you can look for things inside a project, or you can look for specific details and information and metadata within actual designs, which is very cool, very useful for people who do work like you. We will get into a little more detail about everything I just said, because I'm going to hand it over to Brett. Brett, are you ready?
I am, yeah. You just got to make me presenter, and then I will share my screen with you all.
Sorry.
It's all right.
Around. I've had a lot of coffee today. Very punchy. Okay. It said that I made it presenter. Did it work?
So, well, let's see. You tell me. Let's see if we can see my screen. Can you guys see that okay?
Yep. Yep.
All right, excellent. So, very cool. So, let's go ahead and start here, right? So, we go up to Autodesk360.com for those of you that are new, and all I simply do is just click on the Sign In button, and what it will do, it's going to take me right into the dashboard for my project here. So, this is what A360's interface looks like, and you kind of saw it a little bit on Heather's slide there, so she showed us a little bit of what that would look like. And the thing I want to make sure you take note of, just to, exactly what you talked about, viewing and sharing, collaborating, that's exactly what this tool is designed to do. So let's go ahead and start at the top. You see a couple of different lines of toolbars up here. But the thing I want to start with first is kind of the main body of the screen. And there's really three sections. There's the activity feed, there's your most recent content, and then there's some learning content over here that I'm going to call attention to as well, which is really a great way to get started and some good content to help you with the fundamental things that A360 is all about. So first off, on the left-hand side, the activity feed is kind of like Facebook, right? So if you have a lot of people that are in your hub or in your projects collaborating and uploading content, you can see as I scroll down, it's a constant feed of what's going on with the project, or a project, or any project within the hub. And the thing to really pay attention to here is if you want to look at just your content, like just your network, which would be called my network, these are just the projects that I'm involved in. If I want to look at all activity within my A360 hub and see what everybody's doing on all the projects, I would just click the Hub All button. So pretty cool feature there. If we move over to the middle here where we see the recent activity, again, it's similar to the activity feed, only now it's about, what files got modified, is there any calendar invites, different types of comments that might have been added, things like that. But the cool thing here is that you can actually you can actually filter the views. So if I want to, maybe I only want to look at events, or maybe I only want to look at specific messages that are coming in, kind of a thing. So again, a little bit of control gives you the ability to filter. You can also select whether you want to see from anybody or from just yourself. And then lastly, over here on the right, we've got some really great learning content. And again, this is one of the things that, Bud and myself, we're typically the two guys that are hanging out in the forums, answering all the questions and such. And what you can really do to help yourself is go through this video content. So what is A360? Take the tour, create a project, upload files, how to invite people, because those are the basic building blocks of the functionalities that you're really going to be doing with inside of A360. And then lastly, as you're here today, join a Hangout Live. You can join any of our Hangouts. We do them every week, and the topics vary, right? Whether it's getting started or more specific topics about, deeper dives into specific content sharing or deeper functionalities. So let's go ahead and move up now to the top of the viewer and take a look at the functionality there. We're starting out in the dashboard, as I said before, and the thing to pay attention to here is to notice anytime you pick any other buttons, you'll start to get the breadcrumbs to file out. The easiest thing to do, though, if you ever want to just make sure you're always going back, or if you get lost or trying to go back to the dashboard, either by selecting on the A360 button or the dashboard button itself, that's the easiest way to get back home. Over here in the middle, we have a really cool search functionality. And the nice thing about this is it's not only, searching for files or searching for specific individuals. I can search obviously for people that are part of my projects. You can see that it'll pull up their email addresses, or if I want to specifically use numbers, I can go ahead and do that to search for specific files within a project. I don't know how you guys are, but it seems to me like every time I get something set up, there's lots of projects, lots of folders within the projects, and then lots of files within those folders. It's hard to find content sometimes, so it's really nice to be able to have a simple way to easily search for something if I don't exactly remember at the time where it might be. One other example, obviously it's textual, you can do a text or a verbal search as well. I know I have a specific file named night here, it's the night shot of a house that we'll take a look at later. But again, just highlighting the power of the search functionality there. Next to that, we've got notifications. And again, just a kind of a quick tip on what this is all about. What this is here for is just to help you know that, okay, did everything go okay? Did I upload okay? Did all my files get loaded up correctly? If not, there will be an error message here. So it's a nice, easy way to be able to help you know whether or not your content got successfully copied or uploaded or downloaded. Helps you keep track of that. And then the orange button here, alerts. As most of you likely are, I would imagine most of you guys are admins because you probably went in and set up a trial. What you'll figure out is that, okay, I'm going to start to invite people, and then maybe, as an administrator, you have the ability to control, and moderate who other people invite to. And so this is the way at the top of the, kind of at the top of the hub to be able to monitor who's getting invited, or if you yourself want to be able to moderate who's getting invited, you can go in and just quickly see, okay, it says, I obviously had invited myself to a specific project as for an example, but all you do is you just click on these, you can go ahead and approve or reject it, just as simple as that. So again, a great way to keep control of really who has access to the content within your hub. And then we'll go over to the profile picture here. Now, a lot of times this is just, your own personal profile content, but there's really two things that I want you guys to remember here. If you're going to go and be invited to other hubs, this is the best way, or you want to definitely leverage this functionality within this area, to be able to make sure that you can flip back and forth from hub to hub. Now you can see it gives you the ability to be invited to 3, and it'll show you here in the little drop-down that I can go ahead and click on any one of these. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into Andrea's team hub, and you'll see that it pulled me into there. Now it's got a different URL at the top, And so that's not a problem there. But the other cool thing, if you hit the icon, the little More button down at the bottom, it'll actually show you all of the hubs that you're part of. And you can even set a default here too. So take note of that. That's one of the real powerful things underneath that profile button. And we see this question a lot too. So just in case we see it in the, but again, Bud and I are in the forums a lot. We get a lot of these common questions where it's like, hey, how do I switch from hub to hub when I'm invited to a lot of them? And that's the best way to do it. Now the other thing I'm going to call out here is this little admin button right here. If you're an admin, which I'm assuming most of you are, or if you end up being invited to another project, this will be the difference. You will or you will not see this admin button depending upon if you're a contributor or just a member of somebody else's hub, or if you're in your own and you're the owner of it. If you select that admin button, what it does is it gives you full visibility into a lot of the functionality, kind of in one nice page. Team information, so if you want to update your team information, you can go ahead and do that. Here's where you control, whether or not people can invite people and whether you need to moderate it. You've got the ability to control your team members and be able to manage them, whether you want to deactivate them or activate them. And I'll just go ahead and click into that once because I think that's kind of a cool view. It gives you the really, again, a kind of a controlled atmosphere of, okay, who do I have in my projects? What are their roles? Are they active currently? Or do I need to, do I need to deactivate them? Do I need to modify their roles? Or do I need to edit their profile information? Again, you have a lot of control right there. You have a similar control for project contributors. You can also control your projects here that you get set up, which we're going to go in just a minute and go ahead and create a project. But again, just to show you the admin functionality here, you can deactivate and activate projects. You can monitor, who are moderators and owners, etc. The other three little buttons here: content, administrator, subscription. You guys can go ahead and spend some time in there. The content is really about, do I want to feature any content, which we'll show that a little bit later too. Do you want to add additional administrators to the hub, which you can do. And then finally, subscription. So if you are on a trial, people often will come back and say, hey, I went through this trial, now how do I purchase? Or how do I find out more details about that? Or if I want to find a reseller that might be able to help me through that process, this is the best way to do it. Go into here, click on subscription details, and you'll be able to see that information right there. All right, so we're going to go back over to probably the most important button that we'll show you today, the help button. And another question that Bud and I often get, I'm going to go ahead and just minimize my screen here for just a second, just to show you what has happened and where the questions come in. So you can see the button there in the upper right-hand corner, just a little question mark. But the one thing you'll notice is it's a little bit off to the side. They're a little bit further spaced. And so what happens is people will contact us and say, hey, I don't have that help button in my view. And typically what happens is because when they pop open A360, it won't go full screen. And so all you need to do is you can either scroll over or use your slider bars or go, like I said, go full screen, and then you'll be able to see it. So just in case you're wondering where it might have gone, it's there. You probably just aren't seeing it because you're not in full screen view. But the two things that I'll talk about here is really how to communicate with Bud and myself and the rest of the team inside the forums, which is just via this community link here. And if you have a specific question that you already want to ask, you can certainly use the feedback functionality, which just opens up kind of a blank form for us, and we'll take a look at that. But also, I want to start right here in help. Because the cool thing about the help page here is how the content's laid out. So if you go ahead and start to expand some of this stuff, you'll remember the first things that I was talking about on the right-hand side of that dashboard was really all about how to get started, how to create a project, how to upload files, how to invite people. But there's also, in addition to that, and also those icons are right here. You can see them front and center, the video icons. But also there's things like, hey, what browsers are supported by A360? Or, what types of file types should I be able to view? And you'll notice there's quite a lengthy list. I think there's over 125 or something like that now. But we've got them separated out into design file types. So if you're working with different files, whether it's SolidWorks or PTC or Fusion files or any of our other Autodesk-based products. Also, you've got different media types that you can use. And finally, the Office stuff, right? Whether it's Word documents or Excel spreadsheets, things like that as well. All those content or all those file formats are viewable by our viewer. And again, it's just a great place to hang out in here. If you really have questions about the tool and how to get started, this is the best place to start. Obviously, there's search functionality as well if you want to go ahead and do that too. So now I'll go ahead and come back to our project here. And because the other thing I wanted to show just really quickly is the community. So rest assured, you guys are not alone. There are a lot of people that have questions about A360, and this is the place that they come to find the answers. And like I said before, Bud and myself are primarily the two managers that maintain and monitor and answer all the questions inside of the forums. But the best thing, one of the better, the other best tips that we can give you is to, check here first. If you have a question, you want to see if other people have asked that question, if they answered it, you can certainly click through, click on any one of these links, whether it's the general discussion or the idea station, and you'll be able to see, you can use the search functionality. So if you, for instance, maybe had a question about DWIF, you'd be able to immediately see, okay, here's all the questions that people have asked about DWIF. Maybe my question's already been answered before you post a new one. If you do need to post a new one, just create a new post. The other thing that I showed earlier on is that if you know that you need to have a question answered that has not been answered before, you can just click on Feedback To, and it'll actually open up a blank document for you so that you can go ahead and pick the subject, type in your email information, or type in the topic data, and then go ahead and click Post, and it'll post it to the forums that way as well. So again, just a great way. We've got a lot of really good content out there that I think a lot of times people really don't realize where it is and how to leverage it. And so that's why specifically on these Getting Started Hangouts, we want to make sure and call that out so that you can help yourself a little bit, but also if you need the help, you can certainly reach out to Bud and myself, the rest of the team through the Hangouts, or through the forums. Yeah, go ahead, Bud.
What if they have an idea they want to share with us?
Absolutely, good call. All right, so let's go back to the idea, the community station here, or the forums. The ideas also, so this is really cool as well, and this is one of the things that we like to encourage people often, where it's like, hey, look, if you guys have got great ideas or great feedback on, hey, I wish you guys would fix this with A360 or whatever it might be, definitely click on the Idea Station link inside of the forums, like I just did, and I'll do it again, just in case it was a little too quick. Go to A360, and you'll see Idea Station right here. And if you click on that, what you'll notice is that there's really 3 tabs. You've got Hot Ideas, which are kind of trending and or maybe they're a little bit more new than others. Top Ideas, which have the most kudos, and then the newest ideas are also here under this 3rd tab. And so we love to hear from our customers. We encourage, anybody and everybody, if they come in with a really great idea inside the forum or inside the general discussion area, you'll see Bud or myself say, hey, could you please post that in the Idea Station because it's a really great idea. And then you yourselves can also monitor and see, okay, what, maybe this idea has already been posted, and I just need to go in and kudo the one, or I can add to it potentially just by clicking on it as well, and it'll allow you to add further further detail on if you have a little bit of a different tweak on that same idea. So pretty cool. Definitely do that. And yeah, please come forth with your ideas. We're always looking forward to hearing from our customers so that we can make our product the best that it can be. So cool. Great question, Bud.
One thing I would add to that, Brett, is that also if you see it says accepted in those ideas, that means we've implemented it based on what we saw in the forum. So it's a great place to see what ideas we've implemented.
Yeah, that's a good thing to call out, Bud. So yeah, what Bud's talking about is the status here. So you can see the statuses. So you can see a lot of these have been accepted that they've been working on. You can also see if we look at the hot ideas, which probably be one of the some of the newer ones. You can see that their status is comments requested. So right, we're looking for feedback on moving the file view buttons to a more logical place. So we're looking for people's feedback on all of these different ideas that have come in. So definitely take a look at those and help us implement the things that really would make sense and make the A360 more streamlined for you. Cool. All right, so we went through the top bar. Now we're only going to take the next 75 minutes and go through one or two of these other buttons. I'm kidding. The second bar, let's jump into that. This is really the action bar, right? If you want to look at all projects at the hub level, you would obviously click on this button. If you want to look at all data for all the projects, again, we're at the top line. You can see all of the different data within the projects. And there's some easy, if you don't like that view, you can always click on the, a smaller icon view, or if you guys like a list view. And actually, this is a good idea. This is a good thing to bring up because as you get a lot of projects, maybe you don't want to scroll through, 258 different icons. You can always do a sort search too, or a sort. So you can go ahead and sort on any of these headers and any of these columns if that's an easier view for you. So you have complete control of that. To click on people, same type of a thing, right? Here's all the people that are invited to all the projects within my hub. And then we have two other buttons here, Calendar and Wiki. And the Calendar is really slick because now, and I'll warn you, right? This doesn't link bidirectionally with your Outlook calendar, but what it does do is it does give you the ability to export it in a link. So if you have an event or if you have several events that are, you can export the whole thing via the link. And what it'll actually do in your Outlook is it'll actually create another calendar that you can toggle on or off, and you can be able to monitor it. And again, it's export only at this time. We're always looking for ways to, I know it's on the roadmap to improve a lot of things within the calendar, but right now it's an export only functionality. But at least it gives you the ability to go ahead and, add features or add events to your calendar and track if you want to do it that way. And then finally, the Wiki. The Wiki is really cool as well. And really what it is, it's primarily the ability to, create a web page inside of A360. So I'm going to go ahead and just click on one of these, and where Bud and I, have seen a lot of use of this. I mean, we see a lot of different ways that people use the Wiki. We personally use A360 ourselves for managing our own projects inside of Autodesk. And so how Bud and myself use the Wikis is to keep track of things that we don't want to lose, right? I don't want to lose it in an activity feed. I don't want to have to go through a project in 12 folders to go find a specific file that might contain the text. The Wiki allows you to, at a very top level line, or a high level within a project, it allows you to share information that you want to make sure that it's right at your fingertips. So you can add notes, or you can put a little chart in, or you can put pictures or embed videos. Again, like I said, it's really just like managing or building your own web page, and that you want to make sure that's right at the top of the top of the project level and make it easy for people to find. So really cool functionality that definitely we see a lot of people take advantage of this, and even outside of what Bud and myself have been doing or our other internal teams, where we see external folks like yourselves use this is often for project standards, where hey, I've got, these are the 12 things that everybody's got to know for this project before we get involved, and we got to make sure that it's top of mind all the time. So again, just a little tip there for you guys. And then we've got a couple of last buttons over here, upload, which is pretty self-explanatory, right? If I want to upload any content, we've got a couple of options. You can grab a whole folder, or you can grab a bunch of files and just, multi-select if you want to do it that way. The other thing, which is really cool and newer functionality, I would say, is the fact that, not the fact that you can change the destination of where you want to put it, but the fact that you can actually create a new folder on the fly. So how many times okay, and this happened to myself a lot too, where it's like, okay, I want to move something, and it's like, oh, dang it, I need to create a folder first and then be able to upload that content into that specific new folder before I do so. And so now we've got this new button down here called New Folder that allows you to create a new folder on the fly as you're uploading content into your project. So that's the upload functionality. And then last is create, right? So if I want to create a new project or create a message or a link or a wiki page, or we can even do polling inside of A360, or if I just want to create an event, I could do that here as well. So before I get started in creating a new project, which I'm going to click on the button anyway, Bud, are there any other questions out there? I'll take a quick second just to see if there's any specific questions.
We do. Make sure I'm not muted.
No, you're
not muted. Well, I didn't want you to hear me typing, right? Raphael was wondering about, can they have mixed file format types on A360? For example, can they have, of course now I can't see his question, can they have multi-disciplines like glue, and can they have like RCP and FLS and EX file formats uploaded?
Again, I would go right back to the, here we are, into our help. Sorry about that. Let me go ahead and blow this back up. I would go right back into the help and take a look at the viewable file types. So I know some of those are and some of those are not available, but I mean, you can have anything you want inside of A360. Whether or not we view it is another question, right? You can always upload anything. The question would be, is like, okay, yeah, you can. It's just like any other site where you can go ahead and upload the content. Somebody else could download it. But it's really the thing that you'll see, the power of A360 is really the ability to interact and view these files. So it may not be, I saw RCP right here. What were the other ones, Bud, that you called out?
FLS. I didn't see
FLS. I don't see that one here.
I don't see that one, yeah.
Here's FLC, FLV, FLI. So again, yeah, the best bet is to, certainly you can go ahead and give it a shot. I'm sure the things will upload. It just depends upon whether or not it'll be viewable or not. But yeah, certainly search or check our viewable file type inside the help area. So cool.
Yeah,
all right, anything else?
The thing I would want to add to that is that the list of supported file types is constantly being updated. So even if something, go ahead, Brett. That's all.
No, that's a great thing. Yeah, absolutely. We're always adding to that because we hear loud and clear from people. It's like, hey, how come we can't view this version of this specific file? And so that as people chime in on that. We definitely will go to work on making sure that if it's something that a lot of people need, we'll get all over it, right? So, yeah, very good. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and create a project, right? So let's go ahead and say, is going to call this Jan 14, 2015. I get that mixed up now. It's already 2015. Hangout. So you can type it, you can name your project whatever you want. You can go ahead and type in a purpose if you to do so choose. And then, one of the things I like to spend a little bit of time on is, first off, you want to pick what kind of project type you want to make, whether it's open, closed, or secret. And then, simply you just invite your members, right? Team members or project contributors. So what I want to do, though, is spend just a minute on, what's the differences in these project types, because there's been, a lot of confusion in what they are or what they aren't. And then also the differentiation between team members and project contributors. So let's start first with a project type. So you can select just by clicking, whether it's secret or closed or open. And the one thing that I want to make sure, normally what people would think when they pick on these is that, okay, open means everybody can see it. Closed means people have to be invited to it. Secret means that they can't see it. And that's partially true. Open, just to clarify, and I want to make sure that people really understand this because we've seen a lot of questions around this, open means the project is open for all of the internal people, meaning internal people inside of your company, which would typically be team members for your project. And so it's important to remember that distinction because project contributors cannot be invited to an open project. Again, it's an internal project only for people inside of your company that are invited. And so external folks like vendors or contractors or clients or owners or whatever, whoever you're going to share your content with, if you would try to invite them as a project contributor, you will not be able to do so. So that way, we always want to make sure it's like, look, open project really isn't probably what you're thinking. Again, it's an internal project only, so no project contributors can be invited to open projects. Closed means that all of your internal people can see it, that you're sharing, all of your team members that are, let's say your company's got 12 people and you invited all your 12 people into your hub. They can see the projects. They can ask to view the content within the projects. But the cool thing about the closed projects is that's where you get the ability to share externally or outside of your company, where I want to invite project contributors that might be those vendors or those extended contractors or whoever I might be working with. So that's where the toggle button comes in play, where you can invite or enable project contributor access. And then the last type is secret. And so even for people that are logging into their hub, even, nobody can see a secret project, internal or external, unless they've been invited to it. And that's just to make sure that, depending upon the level of privacy you want, you guys have the ability to choose, again, whether it's closed or secret or an open project that's an internal only, no external contributors. So if we drop down into team members and contributors, you kind of get the gist of it, right? Team members are typically people that are inside your company. That's typically what we recommend, and that's what we see people typically, how they initially set up their hubs. Project contributors would be people outside of your company. So again, pretty simple. I'll go ahead and invite, let's see, I'll go ahead and just invite myself as a project contributor because I'm going to go ahead and create a closed project. And then all I do, once I have all this information filled out, I go ahead and hit create. It'll create the project. It'll send the invitations because it already says that I am, I give an invalid email address. Okay, that's fine. That's okay, not a problem. So here's our project, right? So the thing I want to call out now is the fact that if you remember what our dashboard looked like, where it had the activity feed and the recent content, and then it had all these buttons up at the top, if we go ahead and look at the project that I just created now for the January 14 Hangout, you'll notice that there's consistency in the look and feel. You've got the buttons, they're just in a little different location, and now they're specific to this project. But you still have, who the project members. You have my activity feed here, which I don't have any because I just created this thing. But then you also have, all the recent content will be here too. And then you've got the ability to invite others. So if you want to invite project contributors or additional team members, you can certainly do so via email. Or you can upload content or create, you can go ahead and create your wikis, or you can create, all sorts of different things in here as well, just like you could at the hub level. So we're inside of our project. And the first thing that I typically tell people to do is, hey, let's go ahead and create a folder because I want to upload some content. So let's see, I'm going to go ahead and upload this stapler assembly that I like to use. and I'm going to create a folder for it, and then what I'm going to do is click on that folder and just simply I'm going to upload some content. Now, like I said before, you got a couple different ways you can do it, right? I can go ahead and grab a folder, I can go ahead and grab the files. I'll just go ahead and click into this one area. I'll grab all these files and I'll hit open. And the thing that I want to call out while this is happening, all right, let me click off here, hopefully, there we go, composite design, is the fact that you have the choice. You have the ability to choose between just loading up individual files, or you can choose a composite design. And if you're using Revit files or Revit, Revit models, or if you're using or dealing with Inventor assemblies, anything that has referenced files with it, you'll typically want to use a composite design. And then you'll also want to go ahead and select the parent design file. So for this one, I know it's the stapler IAM file. That's the parent. And then everything else is a referenced file. And so you'll go ahead and be able to see these files being saved up into the folder that I created. And I'll click on this now. It's going to take a couple of minutes to actually translate this and so that it makes it viewable. But I've got another project open that's already got this thing done so you can see what it looks like and so that we can start to take a look at the viewer. So we'll come back to this in a couple of minutes. But let's go ahead and take a look at another project here that I've, or another instance that I've got set up here. And we'll go ahead and look right into that folder that I've created. So go ahead and click on Data. And there we go. Go into my Inventor Files folder. And we'll look at the stapler. And again, where I want to spend some time here is just really explaining to you guys the power of the viewer that we have, because it's amazing. And I don't know if a lot of you have spent some time already in A360 and you've been able to see that, wow, this thing's amazing because it opens up, so many different file formats. And just to help kind of put that into scope for you, the fact that, remember the days where you used to have to pile up your laptop or your desktop and your monitors and go out and do a client presentation or whatever it might have been. The fact that you don't have to have that heavy-duty hardware or software loaded to be able to go out and do a presentation with customers is huge. And that's really the power of this viewer. Just think about that, whether it's, as Heather was talking about earlier, the ability to do it via mobile, so tablets, whether it's an iOS or an Android tablet, or just even if, if it's a lightweight laptop where you want to go ahead and just pop something open and show people, what you're talking about, or have a meeting with your client, you can do that. So you have full manipulation, so depending upon the file type that you're loading up, whether it's a 2D or a 3D file, obviously this is a 3D one. And just to highlight, let me go ahead and push this out of the way here a little bit. There we go. Just to highlight a couple of the buttons around the interface of this thing. Let me go ahead and do this real quick again. There we go. You can see that first off we have the comments area. So if I want to add comments to this file, it keeps track of all of your commentary. If you want to go ahead and look at different versions, it keeps track of all the versions that have been uploaded. And then also across the top here, you've got specific actions that you can also do. So if you want to download the file, or if you want to be able to control who's able to download the file, you can certainly do that. If you want to go ahead and just send a link to somebody. So a lot of times, again, a lot more questions that we get from the forums, a lot of people will say, well, hey, maybe I don't want to really invite this person to my hub, but I'd certainly like to show them the file that I've been working on for them. If you just send this link to people, they don't even need A360. They can just pop that link open. It'll open up the viewer for them right on the fly, and then they can fully interact with the document or the file right there too. So you've got some other actions here: move, copy, some basic functionalities, delete. You remember when I mentioned the fact that you could actually feature information on the front page of your project? This is how you do that. And just to, again, I'll come back to that in just a second because I want to call out one other thing here before I do, but keep that in the back of your mind. Editing item properties. This is one thing that's very important too. So the ability to control what you can do with a file, whether you want people to download or whether you want people to use that public link. You as admins of your hub, if you are an administrator, you can control all that functionality as well. So it's really great to be able to do that. So let's go ahead and pop this thing back open, because I did want to show, again, I want to make sure and finish my thought on this whole ability to feature something. If I go ahead and feature this document and I go ahead and publish, what's going to happen is when I go back to my dashboard, I'll go ahead and close this now, go back to my main project dashboard of this specific project, click on project, you'll see that now I've featured up in this upper right-hand corner, here's my stapler that I just featured. And again, the whole intent was just to give you guys the ability to control, if we're really going to use this as a presentation page to make sure that people find what we want them to find, here's a way that you can do that. So Pretty cool ability there. So let's jump back into that file because I want to continue to show some more functionality with that. And actually, I'm going to pull up a different one real quick because we kind of took a look at that stapler. I want to go back into one of these really cool Fusion files that we use a lot. And let's see, here we go. And it's this really slick little model car. And we'll go ahead and take a look at a couple different file formats too, time providing as well. So here again is our viewer. We took a look already at the commentary. You've got the ability to add comments. We looked at the fact that you can actually look at how many versions have been saved. We've talked about the actions that you can do. You can actually add tags to your folders if you want to, be able to add tagging to your files. But you can also share the file too in a couple different ways. There's also another link here that you can actually use this link to share. You can copy it into an email. Or the other thing you can do is you can actually embed this thing into, like for instance, we've seen people use the Wiki to embed the functionality into, or embed that video or that file. Or you can just use it in an email as well if you want to, however, or a web page if you want to set it up that way. So let's start to take a look at what we can do with this file. We can zoom in, and you have basic zoom in and rotate functionality. You've got a walkthrough ability now, which is new functionality. So for those of you that are architects on the phone or dealing with building models and things like that, that works out really slick. You've got the ability to change focal length, which is kind of a funky little deal where you can, if you're really getting crazy with the specific view of the focal length, or if you wanted to be able to make it look like you're taking a picture of something, you could mess around with that. You always have access to the model structure, which is important too, so you can see this full assembly of, everything that's built in, all the additional parts of this assembly. If you start picking on any of these things, you'll see that it will highlight them within the model itself. Now you could do that also internally into the model. If I want to go ahead and show all objects, if I just go ahead and pick on something, just go ahead and toggle that off. I can go ahead and highlight a specific part within this assembly, and you'll see that it'll give me the properties of what it is. But I can also isolate it if I want to. I can isolate one thing, or I can go ahead and hold my control key down, and I can isolate several parts as well. So if I want to isolate just those things that I've selected, I can certainly do that as well, and I have still full functionality of rotation. You can see all the other parts ghosting in the background, which is really slick. And I can even change the background lighting too. That has been another request from a lot of folks where it's like, hey, give us a little bit more control of what the backgrounds look like. So you can see we've tried to provide a lot of different selections for folks to choose from. So I'm going to go ahead and turn everything back on. I'm going to go ahead and hit the home button, which is this little house up here. So if you ever get get lost within your design and want to go ahead and make everything back normal again, you can just go ahead and hit the home button as well. And then what I'll show is the cool finale here for the viewer is the fact that you have the ability to explode things, which again gives you great ability to, if you really want to show people whether it's the model that you're working on from a building standpoint, or a manufactured assembly like this, the ability to explode things is pretty slick and powerful as well. So I'm going to go ahead and stop right there, Bud. Do we have any other questions that we might want to take a couple minutes to answer at this point?
You're muted, Bud. Oh my God.
Be more.
Yeah, there he is. There he is.
I really don't want to be that loud typer, right? Yeah, we had one that just came in. Tori is asking, it's specifically about Revit, but they want to know how to access their Revit files, and I think what they mean is how do they access it once it's on A360, right? I'm thinking
yeah.
Download.
Pardon me?
I'm thinking maybe once it's up there, how to download it.
Oh, sure. So if we go ahead, let's go ahead and take a quick look at a Revit file here, and then I can show you what that would look like. We'll go ahead and just pop this guy open here. So here's a Revit model right here. And I guess hopefully the question is, but you'll have to, maybe she'll type back in and give us a little bit more detail on that. But yeah, you can go ahead and download, once you invite people to your project, and once you once you've set up the item properties, so edit item properties, once you've set it up to where people can actually download the file, which is the default, you can then just go ahead and select the download file here, the download button, and it will actually download locally, right? So hopefully that answers the question, and hopefully it shows you what you were looking for. But if it's not, definitely type back in and provide a little bit more clarity as far as how to access and download those files. So
and I might have missed this while I was typing before, but you could also tell a little bit about how we track the version if they upload and download while they're modifying or collaborating.
Yeah, yes, as far as we did cover that over here. So if you have other additional versions, so folks, so typically, so kind of the function will be that you will upload content or upload files to your project, and then people that you invite, if they need to edit them, they will actually come up and download them. Now, specifically for Revit, we've got it. So I'm not sure if this might be the question that the person's asking about, Bud. We've just released recently this new product called Collaboration for Revit, which, for those of you that are familiar with Revit Server, gave people the ability to interact and work, across offices on a similar design on the fly, right? We're working real time in a design. Collaboration for Revit is that same functionality, only in the cloud. So you're not, dropping your $10,000 or $20,000 on the Revit Server product. You can certainly use A360 to do it for you at a much less reduced price, kind of a thing. So if that's really the functionality that this person is asking about, then we can point them in the right direction. If you just go up to, so what we do is just point them to Autodesk.com and do a search for Collaboration for Revit. And now that still means you have to have Revit, you have to have A360, and then you have to have this Collaboration for Revit piece as well. So it's 3 things, but then that provides you the ability to interact actively, real time, in effect, with others that you're collaborating with. So, okay. Any other questions, Bud?
One other question unrelated to that was, do you have to be an administrator to export the calendar? No,
you don't. You don't have to be an administrator. So you can export the calendar at any time. So yeah, that does not mitigate whether you can export the calendar or not. So
there we go. I think that's about all I see right now.
Cool. Well, yeah, I wanted to open up one other file. I was going to pop open another an AutoCAD file here. Let's see here. Let's take a look at this guy.
So while you're doing that, one question came in that would be good you can talk about. They want to know, is A360 for viewing only or for viewing and editing?
Yeah, A360 is viewing only. And so typically where Bud and myself see this question come in is people get a little confused with AutoCAD 360, which is an editing tool, and A360, which is a viewing tool. So hopefully that provides some clarity. But yeah, you're not doing any editing to your documentation up in A360 at all. It's primarily, unless, like I said before, if you're folks that are wanting to use the Revit, the Collaboration for Revit tool, that still, you're not doing the editing in the tool. It's just allowing that pass-through to occur. So you're still editing, not inside of A360, outside of it. But if people ask us, a lot of times people, since it's so close with AutoCAD 360 versus Autodesk A360, people get a little confused. And AutoCAD A360 is the editor. A360 is the collaboration tool. So what I was going to show here with this last drawing here, I wanted to highlight the things that you don't typically see or we didn't see in those other modeled files. And it's specifically these 2 icons right here. And a lot of time, again, another question that Bud and I see a lot is, hey, how come I loaded up my file, but I don't see all the views? And that's because they typically don't find these 2 little icons. And when you first come into the file, the default selection is the comments, right, or search, right? The search field, which reminds me, I got to go back and do a little bit of show you guys how cool it is to be able to search within the viewer. But typically, people miss these little 2 icons over here that allows you to show your other views of the files, whether it's in list or file or kind of a thumbnail format. So. Yeah, before I forget, let me jump back into that other file, Bud, and do a quick little bit on how well the search functionality works with inside of A360, because this is the other thing, folks, that is really, it really sets us apart from the other viewers that you might see out there. So here we are with our car again. I'm going to zoom up a little bit, and I'm just going to go ahead and do, this is what we call deep search, right? So I'm going to go ahead and search for, the wheels. Now, I know I can see the wheels, and I don't know if they're really called wheels, but, I know that they are called wheels as the parts within the assembly here. So you can see that I can go ahead and pick and click or go down through the makeup of any one of these. And no matter what I select on, it'll actually bring it front and center for me. I can rotate it around. I can even go ahead and see the material list of what this really is. I can go ahead and isolate, or I can focus on that, which would give me the ability to really, that controls the rotation point around that specific part. So again, just to highlight, deep search functionality within A360 is really a powerful thing to be able to use if that's something that is a good need for you guys, because a lot of times, whether it's a big building with a lot of different parts in it or a manufactured assembly with a lot of different parts in it, it's hard to find the stuff you're looking for. And so we figure with the deep search functionality in there, that will helpfully, save time and simplify the process as well for you. So, all right. So I think I've gone through my list. We've taken a look at the viewer. We've talked a lot about that, how to share, all the different actions that you can take with the viewer. We've talked a lot about, kind of the basic setup and structure of whether it's the dashboard or individual, setting up projects, controlling the data and what it looks like and how it presents itself inside the view. I guess the last thing I'll do is just encourage people to, if you've already set up your hub, that's great. If you've already, created projects and created folders and added content, that's awesome too. And Bud and myself we totally look forward to hearing from you folks inside of the forum. So if you have any other questions, definitely reach out and find us there. Continue to come to our Hangouts because it's one of the two of us typically are hosting this, or we usually get guests that come in and do different topics every other week on the off weeks. And so with that, I think unless there's any other questions, Bud, I'll go ahead and hand it back over to Heather. But